and welcome back to the Pregnancy and Postnatal Entrepreneurs Collective podcast. I am your host, Niamh Cassidy, and I'm really happy to have you listening with me today. It is Cuidiú Week. Now, Cuidiú, if you don't know, if you're not from Ireland, is a national parent support charity that I have been involved in for a long time, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that in a bit. But I just want to wish all of my friends and colleagues in Cuidiú a happy Cuidiú Week. And also, this episode is going to be a bit more personal than a lot of the episodes. So while I'll often work in personal stories, this one is just a lot more about my journey and a lot more about me and a lot more about what has brought me here with all of you today. And I'm trying to kind of pull back the curtain about how everything started and what brought me to this place of supporting all of you and supporting lots of different parents in different ways as well. So I'm going to talk a lot about that journey, what I've learned, and hopefully you'll be able to take some lessons from it and get to know me a little bit better as well. And also about what I'm hoping for the future and where we're going with the collective and everything that I'm doing as well. And just before we get into all of that, I just want to tell you about something that is happening at the moment, or that happened a couple of weeks ago. I've recently started a brand new low-cost membership. And the reason why I started it is because so many people were saying that they wanted the support, they needed the support, but that they couldn't really afford the higher programs or the one-to-one coaching. So I wanted to offer something that people would get a lot of value from, but that was a much lower threshold for entry. So I did a really quiet launch. You won't have seen it on social media, just to a select few people. And I've welcomed in some founding members. But I've had a little think about it, and I do feel that there's a room for a few more founding members. So I'm only letting people have a little think about it from the podcast this week. And if you're listening to it this week, so it's the week that ends the 18th of May, 2025. So if you're listening to the podcast this week and you might be interested in finding out more about that membership, just send me a DM on Instagram, because it's invite only at the moment. And there's only room for a handful more founding members. I'm trying to keep the group nice and small, just while we find our feet with the membership, while we're building it, while we figure out everything that it's going to involve. But I am happy to take in a few more lovely people. So do send me a DM if that's something that you're interested in. Okay, so let's get stuck in. And if you're watching me on YouTube and you see me looking off into the sky, that's because that's what I do when I'm thinking. So my journey into this work started with my first pregnancy. So I found out I was pregnant late 2012, and it was unexpected. And there were not complications with pregnancy, but complications with my situation around that pregnancy. Now it's all worked out in the end, everything's fine. But it was a very stressful time. And my now husband, Alan, he looked up some classes. He was trying to help me in a way. And he found this class called Relax, Stretch and Breathe. And it was run by Cuidiú, or the antenatal section of Cuidiú. So I joined that class. And shout out to Niamh Healy, my mentor, my teacher in that class. And that's where I really started to feel a lot more settled in my pregnancy. And I started to learn a lot more about autonomy and childbirth and all those type of things. And then I did like the full antenatal class that Cuidiú ran as well. And that gave me membership to the organization. So I've been a member of the organization since early 2013. And then when my first was born in the summer of July 2013, and Cuidiú runs a lot of breastfeeding groups. So that's one of the big supports that they provide. And the groups don't run during the summer. And I had quite a challenging start to my breastfeeding journey. But by the time September came around, the group was open. I wasn't having as much challenges with breastfeeding, but I was feeling really lost, alone, isolated, all of those things. So probably from the first week in September when I came back on, I'd say I started attending the Baldoyle breastfeeding group here in Dublin, Ireland. And it was like a lifeline for me. I got so much support, just the other mums who had been there before, who were maybe just a few steps ahead, or the breastfeeding counsellors who were more ahead and they could just give you information and support. For me, it was basically telling me that I wasn't losing my mind, because I felt a lot of time that I was. I found that early parenting journey really hard. My son, he was quite an intense baby. So when I learned about the fourth trimester, I kind of expected some of that to ease up after those first 12 weeks, but it never did. And I found parenting really, really hard. But what I got from attending breastfeeding group was, as I said, that support. But I also met the people who I would consider my best friends now while I was there. Another thing that could you do are these parent link groups, or baby link we called them at the time, and that was where we came together and we would meet in each other's houses once a week. The group that I was part of, all of our babies were born in the summer of 2013. So we would go to each other's houses every week. Someone different would host every week, and we'd just literally hang out and be moms. And we grew a really, really strong friendship. And to this day, we're still really, really good friends. And I always joke that we graduated from these coffee mornings in each other's houses to the play centres, and to, escaping for a couple of hours for lunch while the partners minded the babies, to eventually, as they got older, getting out for nights away. And then the last few years, we tend to do more foreign holidays together, or bring the kids away camping and different things like that. So it's just amazing that all the children are going to be 12 this summer, and that we're still going, and that we are still the best of friends. But that's part of what I got from being part of an organisation that is founded on the idea that it takes a village to raise a parent. And that's really exactly what I got from that community support, from being a member of that organisation. So I'd been attending the breastfeeding group for a long time, and then I was asked what I consider training as a volunteer breastfeeding counsellor, and I was so honoured to be asked. Like, I really, really was. And I was getting ready to go back to work, but I said yes, because there was no way I was not going to. And our breastfeeding group was on Mondays. So when I went back to work, I took Mondays as parental leave, so that I could continue to attend the group while I was training, because there's an expectation that while you're training as a volunteer that you attend group for observation, but also to be able to support the qualified breastfeeding counsellors. So I took parental leave, which is unpaid leave, on Monday, so that I could attend a group. And then as time went on and I started to reflect on my birth journey with my firstborn, I had a lot of questions that I felt unsupported with, that I had an induction, unplanned cesarean. You lot know the story. So when we were thinking about a second baby, I really started to look into this and get really, really interested in the birth end. And then the opportunity came up to train as an antenatal educator with QuidU as well, with the Antenatal Ireland element of QuidU. It's a 2.5-year training program, so it's not like some of the programs that you get done in a few days. So it was a really big commitment to make while I was working full time and raising my eldest, and then pregnant with my second. So I trained as that antenatal teacher, and I got really, really interested in, as I said, in birth and pregnancy and everything that can happen. And then when I was pregnant with my second, I really wanted to have a VBAC, and I started researching how I could make that happen. What would give me the best chances of having a vaginal birth after cesarean? And I figured that home birth was the way to go. But unfortunately, home birth is not supported in Ireland for people who've had a cesarean with our public healthcare system. So I hired a private midwife to support me with my VBAC at home. So thank you to Liz Halliday for being my midwife from Private Midwives Ireland. And I had my VBAC at home. I did have a 3rd-degree tear, so I did have to transfer into the hospital afterwards for a repair, but I'm still delighted that I had my vaginal birth at home and that I was supported really well through that. So all of that, and then I'm training as an antenatal teacher. I qualify as an antenatal teacher. I'm back at work again the second time. So I now have 2 children. I'm working full time in homeless services, still taking that 1 day a week parental leave, and trying to now build a business for my antenatal education classes, which I found really, really hard. And I've mentioned this before on the podcast, but I'll just say it again because it's part of the story. I thought, I have such a belief in the power of these classes and these independent small group classes, and how they can really, really support people to be set up for their pregnancy, their birth, and their early parenting experience, that in my naivety, I felt, if I build it, they will come. So I will put out these classes to the world, and of course people are going to attend, because why would they not? They're amazing. But unfortunately that wasn't the reality, as I'm sure many of you have already experienced to date. I think I cancelled more classes than I ran, and it got really sort of disheartening. So I did start then trying to figure out, well, what can I do? Because I'm highly motivated. I am one of these people that likes to succeed. So I was like, well, what am I going to do about this? But the reality of trying to grow something from scratch like that while working full time, having two small kids at home, it wasn't easy. I remember as well the year my eldest went to primary school, and that first summer holiday. So in Ireland, primary school children have 2 months summer holidays, and I was working full time. And I remember just trying to set up all these camps and all these different things and getting them into childcare for weeks and camps for different weeks, and which nanny was going to collect them that day, as in the grannies, we often call them nannies here, who, could granddad collect them that day? Could daddy collect them that day? Could I collect them that day? And there was just so much logistics involved, and it was just so stressful. You think summer was supposed to be a lovely relaxing time. It was just so stressful when I was working full time to try and get all of that organized. When I think about the difference between then and now, so when I think about the difference between this summer coming and where I have 2 kids who are going to be off for 2 months versus then when I just had one child who was going to be off, but now I work for myself. It's just like, it's a completely different world where I don't have to worry about juggling all of that. Do I have to, make some sacrifices and move things around and do all of that? Absolutely, of course. But the freedom that working for myself gives me, I wouldn't give up for any salary. I can tell you that. But it took me a while to get to the point where I felt confident that I could give up work to pursue this full time, or, flexi time, let's just call it. So when I was working full time, I was trying to build a business, as I mentioned, and I just found it really, really hard. I was like listening to all the business podcasts, and I was getting tips, and I was getting a little bit better. My messaging was getting a little bit better. I was starting to get a little bit of traction with some of my classes. And then I felt that, there's only, especially so many of the podcasts were just generic, you know what I mean? Like, they were generic business advice. While I was getting information from them, it just wasn't always suited. So I felt that it was time to invest. And so I started spending money on different things, on different trainings. And sometimes it was well spent money and sometimes it wasn't, but it was all just part of the journey. And one of the biggest supports I got, I suppose, from when I started spending money in my business was around the community aspect and peer support. So I joined a membership where it was all for female founders. And while it was really, really large, I did find some community there. I set up a little mastermind, like a peer support mastermind with a few of us. Just finally being around other entrepreneurs, I found really, really helpful. It started to change my mindset. It started to make me think more in terms of business and not just in service. Like, they do marry together, and it's important that they marry together so that we're supported as well. And it reminds me of the support that I got in Quidju as a parent. And then I got the support as an entrepreneur in these business memberships. And I know I'm preaching to the converted here, that level of community support, that level of camaraderie, that level of peer support in no matter what we do is just so powerful, and really is the thing that I think everybody needs. As humans, we're pack animals, we're social, we need the support of other people. There's all of those sayings about you are the people you spend the most time with, and it really, really is true. Like, the amount that we identify with the people that we spend a lot of time with, when it comes to our mannerisms, when it comes to how we pronounce words, when it comes to our opinions and thoughts. So when we start spending time with other people who are building businesses, it changes our mindset when we see what they're doing, what they're thinking, how they're doing things. And that can be for the positive or the negative. So I did find eventually in some of the things that I had signed up for that not everything aligned with me. So not everything that I was being taught would align with how I wanted to do things or how I felt it was appropriate to do things in the birth world. So for me, being around other people who truly value and believe in the ethics of working in the birth world is really important for me. So all of the clients I've taken on, I'm very intentional that people understand how I do business, and that I'm not into creating fear in pregnant people or in new parents to create business. Is it a good business model? Probably. Is it an ethical business model? I don't think so. So I'm not a type of person that courts controversy. And if that is you, you do you. Okay, I'm not going to tell people how to run their businesses. I will support people who want to run their businesses in a similar way to me to do that and to do it well. So when I'm welcoming people either into the membership or into one-to-one or into my signature program, the Nest program, for me, it's really important that people do have a good understanding of who I am and the way I like to do things so that we're a good fit. And that people, it's really important to me that people that are associated with my brand have similar values. Okay, so I'm not saying that we have to agree on everything, but when it comes to the way that we promote ourselves, the way that we work with parents, the way that we sell our services, you know, the ethics end of it is really important to me. And I think I do a good job in making that come across in my content. So I call in those kind of people. The people who want to work with me are people who also feel that way. So if you're one of those people and you would like to work in that way, as I said, feel free to reach out. But it did take me a lot of time to get from cancelling classes to fully booked and loving life. And part of that journey for me was quitting my job. I don't feel that everyone needs to do that. If I hadn't known what I know now while I was still working, I think I could have built my business while still working, but I didn't know. So I needed the time and space to be able to think about that. So what I did, first of all, is I had a permanent full-time pensionable job, and I took a contract job for a year as like a stepping stone out of this full-time work, and it was slightly less hours than what I was doing in my other job. It was still 32 hours a week, but it was just a little bit less. So I know my storytelling is a little bit round in circles, so please bear with me. So I took that contract job in a family resource centre, and it gave me a bit of space, not a whole lot of space because it was very hard work. It gave me a little bit of space to start thinking about what I want to do. And it was during that time that I joined the membership and I started learning different things. And when my contract came to an end there, they did ask me to extend it initially for a month, which I agreed to, just to get them over the Christmas period. And then they asked me to extend it for another year. And I said no. So I finished my contract and now I was technically unemployed. And I took that time to really start to learn and to try things out and to fail and to learn again and to really figure out kind of what worked for me, but also what works when we're trying to be ethical business owners working with pregnant people and with new parents, and how we can build successful businesses without fear-mongering and without courting controversy and without kind of employing some of the tactics that some more, I suppose, mainstream businessy people might talk about. And again, I'm not trying to really diss all of that. And people are free to do business however they want to do business, as long as they're not telling lies. Then, you know, people are free to do business the way they want to do business. And I'm also, when I say I don't court controversy, I just want to make it clear that I don't mean that I don't talk about important things. I don't mean that I shy away from talking about how I feel or from being myself, because as you can probably hear from me talking today, that's just not the case. What I mean is that sorry, there's a little spider right in front of me. Goodbye, little spider, you go live over there. What I mean is that I don't do it on purpose. Do you know what I mean? So I don't post things to get a reaction out of people, to upset people. Now I will do a few posts like unpopular opinion, or I bet you didn't think about this. You know, they're just hooks. That's not necessarily controversy courting, I don't think. And I do them more in the coaching business, so in the collective, than I would do in my, you know, my birth work business posts. So that was a bit of a tangent. What I was talking about was how the time that it took me to build that, and that I'd left my job, and that I started to really build and to learn and to refine. And that brought me to the place where people were asking me then, you know, Niamh, how are you doing this? What's happening? Can you help me? What are you doing? So I was supporting a lot of people informally in that area, and within our Quidju organisation, within the Antenatal Ireland wing of that, happily supporting people in that sort of way, because that's what we do. And then I started to think, more people need this. More people need to know how to do this. And why would I not share what I've learned with other people so that they can help more families? So this is what it comes down to. It comes down to birth workers being able to help more families. So then I started the collective just initially as an Instagram account, just talking about business for birth workers, talking about how to ethically build your business and that type of thing. I opened the free Facebook group. And then last year I launched the Nest program, which is my signature small group program. And we're 3/4 of the way through the second version of that. And I have to say, it is my baby. I love it. And the transformations I see with people is absolutely amazing. But it is a high ticket program. Okay. So it's for people who are ready really to seriously invest and to seriously give time to their business. And what I was finding is that a lot of people who wanted my help just weren't there yet. And originally when I set up the collective, I had a membership in mind, and I felt that I just want to quickly tell you about something that'll make your life a whole lot easier if content creation is doing your head in lately. It's called the Birth Workers Easy Content Plan, and honestly, it does exactly what it says on the tin. It's a free resource I created for birth workers like you who want to grow their businesses without the faff of wondering what to post, getting stuck staring at a blank screen, or spending hours on content that leads nowhere. You'll get a simple structure, done for you prompts, and examples that actually make sense for your work. So if you've been feeling a bit meh about marketing, go grab the Birth Workers Easy Content Plan now. It's completely free for a limited time. The link's in the show notes. You know, a membership could reach more people. It could really bring people along, no matter where they were in their journey. So they could give as much to it or as little to it, but always taking tiny, tiny steps. But I just didn't have the capacity to organize it at that time. So as I mentioned at the start of the episode, I started this new membership. It's called Your Birth Biz. Your Birth Biz, the membership, or Your Birth Biz Besties. It might change. I had a really quiet launch just on my mailing list, and we've welcomed in some absolutely fabulous founding members, and they're all finding their feet at the moment. We're planning our first training, our first Q&A. So it's really, really exciting times. And what a founding member is, it's when something hasn't been fully created. So the founding members they come in at the lowest price that's ever going to be available. And they really help to, you know, we're building this membership together. We're going to figure out what it's going to be, how it's going to look, how it's going to flow together. So I have these wonderful members, these wonderful other birth workers who are helping me build this membership from the bottom up. And that's exactly how I love to do things. So there is a little bit of room for a few more founding members. I did only open up the founding member slots initially to the email list, but now I'm going to open it up to the podcast listeners as well, but just the end of this week. And the reason why I'm not posting publicly about it on social media is because of what I said about wanting to welcome people who understand me, we're on the same wavelength, and who really want to build their business alongside with me and with other people like me. So if that sounds like you and you would like to find out more, just send me a DM on Instagram. As I mentioned, say anything I heard about on the podcast, whatever, and then we can have a little back and forth, and I can send you some more information about signing up if it feels right. But just to kind of finish off the story around how I got to be here and what my vision for the future is. After I left my job, I went full in on trying to build this business, but then the pandemic hit. So I left my job in January, like the 7th of January, 2020. And then here in Ireland, we went into full lockdown the middle of March, 2020. So in some ways, it gave me a bit more time, but in other ways, going to homeschooling was almost like going back to those first days of early parenting for me. Homeschooling in essentially a self-enclosed prison of my own home. Thankfully, you know, we're lucky enough to have more than one room. We have a garden, but I still found it really, really intense and really fucking hard. So it wasn't like I had all of this lovely time to build my business. And I was doing my lactation study then to do my 90 hours so I could do the lactation exam as well. So while I was building it during that time, it was hard as well. And then as we started to come out of the pandemic, that's when things really, really picked up for me. I'd been able to consolidate everything that I learned. I started running classes again. My classes were either fully booked or nearly fully booked. They were at least profitable. My lactation business was a little bit slow at the start, but again, I was learning, trialing, refining, and then very quickly I was able to bring that business up to fully booked as well. So this is where I'm at now. I split my time between my lactation and antenatal work and my coaching and support work for the collective and now the Europe Birth Biz people as well. And so in all honesty, I'm not doing as much lactation work or as much antenatal work as I was a couple of years ago because I'm running the two businesses. But I love both and I'm not giving up either. So I want to continue to do both into the future. And I think that's part of why people like working with me as well, because I am actively still working as a birth worker, face to face, in person with people. I do online stuff as well, but I'm in the real world working with people. I also do a lot of volunteer work. So I'm still a volunteer breastfeeding counsellor with Quidju. So full circle, did I say this at the start? I can't remember. So full circle, I was running the Baldoyle breastfeeding group this week for Quidju Week, and we bought loads of treats. Now, some of the other breastfeeding counsellors are bakers. I'm not. So I went to the supermarket and bought the treats and brought them down. And we just it was like a really nice party vibe. And it was just really nice because I remember being there in September 2013 and being so lost and getting what I needed from those volunteers, and to be able to continue, and I've been doing it for 7 years now, I think, to be able to continue to provide that support to other people as well has just been amazing. I'm also on the leadership team of Antenatal Ireland and of the Association of Lactation Consultants here in Ireland as well as volunteers. So I'm a serial volunteer, and I just took up 2 more roles as well. So no more. Okay. So that was my full circle moment, I suppose, and what probably inspired this whole podcast episode today. And I hope you have found it maybe a little bit interesting to see where I've come from, hopefully a bit inspiring to see where you can go, and that you have actually enjoyed listening to what I've had to say today, because I see a future where birth workers like you and me have access to business training and mentoring right from the start, or if you're not right at the start, from when you need it. I don't want to see any more doulas or lactation consultants or antenatal teachers or hypnobirth instructors leaving the work because you can't make it work financially. Every Instagram post that I see saying that just breaks my heart, because I feel for that person and not being able to live out their dream, but I also feel for all the families that they're not going to be able to help, because I believe that supported families, when families get off to a good start, when families have the support around them, when they have the knowledge, the information that they need, that they raise loved and grounded children, and that this is how we change the world. This is how we make the world a better place, by supporting those parents and families so that they can be the best parents to their children that they all want to be, but that they have the capacity to be. And I think we can change the world. So I don't want to see a single other birth worker leave this industry. So that's my call out to you, is to please, rather than thinking about quitting, to get support if you need it. If not from me, from somebody. I know when people come into this work, it's because they're good people, and it's because they want to help people, and because they truly have a gift to do that. And I don't want to see you leave. I want to see you feel truly supported by the work that you do, and to be able to do your work in a way that works for you, so that the families you support are supported, and that you're supported as well. So this episode has been a little bit emotional for me, and I've been trying to keep it together a good bit. But I hope that you have enjoyed it, that you have found it beneficial. And if you are interested in becoming a founding member in the new membership, send me a DM on Instagram. I'm welcoming in a few more members up until the end of this week. And if this episode resonated with you, let me know. I'd love to hear from you. But also, I'd love for you to share it with a friend in the birth world, or if you think that it would help a parent that you know in any way, share it with them too. And just thank you so much for listening to me today. And I want to think back to that new parent that I was in 2013, and I want to just offer her some kindness, because she felt that she was doing it all wrong until she got the support. Until she got the support that she needed. So I'm just sending a little bit of kindness back to myself for that hard period of time, and a lot of gratitude for the support that I've gotten to get me here today. Okay, thank you so much for listening, and I will be back with you next week.